What's up, guys? So, it's story time. I recently joined a hookup app, not Grindr, another app, because I was like, fuck it. I just want to meet people. Let's see what happens. I go through these periods. I guess this is probably how most people, at least in my generation, are. I feel like I go through bouts where I'm like, all right, I don't even want to date. I just want to have fun. And then I have other moments where then eventually that interest wanes and I'm like, no, I want something more serious. Anyway, I downloaded this app and I matched with this guy and I was like, huh. Because I was very attracted to him, but you know how you have different types of attraction? It's like there's the lustful attraction and then there's like partner material attraction. And just the way he looked in his profile, I was attracted to him in a way that was more intense than just like a visceral libido kind of way. We started talking and he seemed really thoughtful. Like he said, hey, let's check in tomorrow. I'm going to bed. Let's text in the morning. The next morning, I wake up to a nice text that said, hey, hope you slept well. Like that kind of communication, using full sentences. And it's such a simple thing, but I guess I've gotten so used to the one-word responses, guys who are not inquisitive, who aren't really that polite, that I notice when somebody's like this. So suddenly, my interest increased, and I saw that he was single. It said he was single on his profile. And I thought, maybe I should orient this in another direction, right? And eventually I said, hey, how do you feel about hopping off this app? Shoot me a text. I sent him my number. Silence. No response at all. A few days of no responses turns into a week of no responding, then that turns into 10 days. I think eventually it was like 2 weeks of not hearing back. And the whole time, I was so bummed because I thought this guy seems different. My first instinct was like, what do I do? Like, should I reach back out? Like, oh, but I don't want to. Like, he should be reaching out to me. Is it going to be weird if I reach? All these thoughts, right? And then I finally had this epiphany of, oh, he's just not like, this isn't the right match for what you deep down want. Because if he felt the same way, he would reach out. He would text you. Or at the very least, he would have the authenticity, the maturity to say, hey, just because of bad experiences, I'd rather stick to this app, but let's definitely meet and then go from there. And I realized it was a pattern for me, and I've talked about this before, that sometimes I'll talk to somebody on an app, and in the beginning it's just, interest, not a big deal, not overthinking it. And then based on the dynamic that's created, I will oftentimes romanticize who the person is or who I guess I want them to be versus who they're actually presenting themselves to be. So after not hearing from him, I went through this period of, I guess, feeling rejected, right? And thinking like, should I have not done that? Like, did I move that too quickly? And, all those questions. And I realized that I had an instinct to want to control the situation. And when you want to control a situation, it's because you feel that you're not in control, right? So me thinking, should I reach out again? This is, 2 weeks later. I realized that's a pattern for me when I feel that I guess I lose control of a dynamic where I thought it was a mutual thing. And so I got to this epiphany of, oh, but this isn't even somebody you want to attract. If they can't even communicate how they feel, if they don't even meet you halfway, why are you trying to attract that in your life? Like you're projecting who you want this person to be as opposed to who they really are. So I told myself I'm not reaching out to this guy. All right, if I don't hear from him in the next few days, I'm just going to delete the app. He was the only person I was talking to. I had no interest in anybody else. So if I'm not talking to this guy, then forget it. One day, about 2 weeks later, I had a moment of weakness and I thought, F it. Impulsively, I don't know if I had too much coffee that morning. Impulsively, I was like, I'm just going to reach out and see what happens. So I broke my own rule. I broke my own advice that I gave myself. But I do think it's worth sharing because here's what happened. He responded almost immediately and he sent me lewd pictures of himself. And they were appealing pictures, to be honest. But a part of me was like, oh, because the dynamic so far had been this thoughtful back and forth communication then the radio silence, and the first thing you do is you send a dick pic. And then he went back into the whole, oh yeah, I want to meet you, but he didn't address the phone number thing with like me sending my number, which I thought was, again, I thought another red flag. Like, you're not even going to address that you just disappeared. And we agreed to meet for a drink the next day, because again, in my mind, I'm like, I want to orient this a certain way, but deep down the instincts are now like I was already kind of just turned off that I didn't get the dynamic I guess I wanted or hoped it would develop into. The next day, never hear from him. We never solidified the time, nothing. Doesn't respond. So then the day after that, I deleted the app because I was like, okay, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I romanticized this person into somebody he wasn't. I still kept engaging, I kept digging, and I got that instinct reinforced that, oh, this guy doesn't actually meet my expectations. So I'm so glad it happened because it was a learning lesson. But now I'm finally getting it, like, oh, if you have this gut reaction of disappointment from a guy you're talking to on an app, just trust that feeling. Like, why keep engaging? You learned what you needed to learn. I also blame myself because I think part of it is intentions. Like, he's allowed to only want to hook up. And I guess sadly, I've gotten used to associating that with a certain kind of communication and language and a certain kind of person maybe. He's allowed to be polite and thoughtful and still only be interested in something sexual. And in that sense, it's my own fault that I'm here on a hookup app. I got a taste of something a little bit different and I was hoping for something more. But this guy is not really on my wavelength, and that's okay. And so the lesson for me is, again, trusting your instincts, but also being very clear with your intentions. Like, why am I on a hookup app if I'm then realizing deep down I want something so much more than that? So I deleted the app, and over the past week, I've been deleting all my other apps, including the more serious dating ones, because I'm just at a point where I feel drained, and I feel like, I've talked about this before, to me, dating apps are kind of like gambling. Like, you're chasing that 1% high, that occasional rare high that you get of actually having a connection. But the rest of the time, you're wasting so much time, so much energy. And it's only recently that I noticed, like, there's a really negative mental health effect to all of this, to interactions like with this guy where you can't assess the situation appropriately, like, or not appropriately, but you can't read somebody's intentions as clearly through a phone, through a screen, right? There's something different about meeting someone in person, and that's not always perfect either, but I realized I'm spending times trying to connect with guys through a superficial medium. And even if I'm not superficial, I can't control the other party and their psychological reaction to using one of these superficial apps. So I've slowly been going through like a withdrawal? It's such an awkward word to say, withdrawal of these apps. And I can't believe that I'm 30, been using apps for like almost a decade, and I'm still learning new things about my thought process with these apps and also just my behaviors, like my habits with these apps. I think I've wired myself to feel like I always have to chase things, whether it's friendships, whether it's career goals, whether it's money, and this is one domain in life that I think you shouldn't have to chase at all. It should be organic. And how a dynamic starts, I think, usually is a great prediction of how it'll evolve. And so this was a huge lesson for me in realizing, like, that disappointment you feel, you have to pay attention to that feeling. Why did you feel that feeling? Of course, I believe in second chances and things come up. He could have just been busy and whatever, but a lot of this too is also about, again, intentions and knowing what you want and what your standards are. If I was really, really into a guy, it doesn't matter what's happening in my life, I would respond to him within a 2-week period. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening. I would have that guy on my mind. And I'm at an age now where I'm realizing that's what I want to attract back. Like, no exceptions. Sorry. And if it's not meant to be at that time, it's just not meant to be at that time. So I don't know. I guess for me, the biggest lesson here was just a lesson in control, like letting go of feeling the need to control a dynamic like this.